you've also been trying to make good pizza at home with no luck, today we're going to change that. This is the easiest real Italian pizza recipe you will ever come across. It's called pizza in teglia and is made in 6 hours without any special equipment. If you don't know me, I'm Massimo and I've been mastering Italian homemade pizza weekly for the last 5 years. And in this video, I packed everything I've learned so far so you can have the same result in less than 15 minutes. But before anything else, let's talk about ingredients. Pizza dough is mostly flour and water. Sounds simple, right? But the ratio between them, that is what changes everything. In this recipe, we're keeping hydration on the high end. And here is why it matters. More water into the dough means more steam during cooking. And that steam is what gives you a better rise and a taller, lighter pizza. It also makes the gluten more flexible. That means you don't have to need much. Rest and a few folds are enough to build strength naturally. And last, hydration allows to open airy structures. That is what gives you those irregular holes and soft interior like in good focaccia or ciabatta. So how do you make a wet dough that still holds shape? We do it with strong flours. Flour strength is measured by something called W value. It tells you how much gluten a flour can develop after hydration and fermentation. For hydration dough, we want something strong with W between 280 and 300. You'll sometimes see the W value on the bag. If not, you can check the brand's tech sheet online. You don't have a computer? No problem. Just look for a bread flour with at least 12.5% protein on the label. That's your shortcut. For today's recipe, I'm using Caputo Nuvola, a popular Italian brand flour that's easy to find worldwide. Now you've got the right flour, the right ratio, and the reason behind it all. That's how we make a wet, high hydration dough act like bakery level pizza. And this is where real pizza starts. Not with kneading, but with a quite little step called pre-ferment. It doesn't look like much, but is the foundation of flavor, texture, and digestibility. The type we're using is called a Poolish. It's equal parts of flour and water, plus a touch of yeast and a spoon of honey. Start by dissolving 3 grams of dry yeast and 5 grams of honey into 300 milliliters of room temperature water. The idea is simple. Instead of mixing everything all at once, we give the dough a head start. Where structure begins to form, fermentation kicks in early, and flavor gets a serious upgrade without any extra effort. Then add 300 grams of flour and mix it roughly with the back of a spoon or a fork. Cover it, let it rise at room temperature for about 2 hours or until it doubles in volume. While it rests, thyme and microbes start building flavor you can't fake. You'll end up with a dough that's lighter, more elastic, and better tasting. And if you understand what's really happening here, you'll never skip or rush this step again. When the Poolish doubles, the yeast has woken up, reproduced, and released gas. That gas is what gives your final pizza its soft, bubbly interior and a crust that lifts. When the Poolish doubles is your signal. Flavor is developing, gluten is relaxing, and the dough is ready to evolve. If it still smells like flour, it's too early. If it collapses or smells sour or alcoholic, it's gone too far. So please don't guess, just watch the dough. You know it's ready when the top is bubbly, the texture feels loose, and the smell is sweet and lightly fermented, like spring flowers or fresh yogurt. From here, we're not just making dough, we're building pizza. Up until now, the yeast have done everything, but the moment you touch the dough, you take control. And how you add each ingredient now will make all the difference later on. We start by dissolving 30 grams of salt and the final 2 grams of yeast into 200 milliliters of water. Why now? Because salt can weaken or even kill yeast if they come into direct contact. By dissolving them in water first, you protect the yeast and give the gluten the right environment to develop. Now take your rice and Poolish and add in the salted yeast water. Then follow with 450 grams of flour. Use the back of a spoon or a fork to start combining. You're not kneading yet, you're just making sure the flour gets fully hydrated. Once it's all absorbed, move the dough onto the counter and mix however you like. With your hands or a dough scraper, anything works. The dough will look shaggy, sticky, and elastic. That's perfect. You don't need a smooth ball at this stage. You just need everything holding together, soft and slightly wet. Now we add 20 grams of olive oil. Why now, you would ask? Because if you add the oil too early, it coats the flour and blocks water absorption, which weakens the gluten. But when you add it after hydration have happened, the oil actually helps tenderize and strengthen the dough. Rub it in slowly, folding and pressing as you go. It might resist at first, but it will come together. One tip, keep a bowl of water nearby. Wet hands won't stick to the dough, and it makes everything much easier. At this point, the dough is built, hydrated, and enriched, without any real kneading. It's soft, strong, and alive. And now it's ready to rest and transform. This is the step where everything shifts. Your dough might look sticky, uneven, and a bit messy at the moment, but with just a few folds and a bit of rest, it's going to transform. And when I say fold, it's simpler than it sounds. Each fold gently stretches the gluten and layer it, creating an internal structure that holds shape without kneading. Wet your hands, gently lift one side of the dough, stretch it upward, and fold it back into itself. Rotate the ball and do it again, 2 or 3 times in total. Then cover the ball and let the dough rest. This process needs to be repeated 3 times in total, with short breaks of 5 to 10 minutes between each fold. Each time, you'll notice the dough becoming smoother, stretchier, and more alive. And if you made it this far, you're already 90% ahead of home pizza makers. And chances are, you might know someone who's still struggling. If you send them this video, it might be the reason they finally get it right, and they will thank you for it forever. Back to the recipe now. After the final fold, let the dough rise for 2 hours at room temperature. It will double in size and become soft and airy, easy to stretch and full of flavor. This is where fermentation does the heavy lifting. Gluten relaxes, yeast produces gas, and flavor deepens. And when the dough has doubled, you'll know you have done it right. This one is the transition point, where the dough stops being a bulk of fermented mass and starts becoming the actual pizza. It's a quiet move, but a crucial one. At this stage, the dough has already built gas, strength, and structure, but it's too large to stretch or bake as it is. By dividing it now, you create smaller shapes that rest, tighten, and rise with control. This isn't just portioning, it's the beginning of final proofing. And because the dough is full of air, you need to treat it gently. Start by lightly oiling your surface, then turn the dough out slowly, without pulling or tearing, and use a scraper or a sharp knife to cut it in half. Then take each piece and fold the edges inward like an envelope. Flip the seam side down so the smooth side face up. Now place each piece in a small square container with a little oil at the bottom. The square shape helps shape the dough as it rises, so it's already thinking in the direction of your tray. Cover well and make sure there is enough space for it to double. The dough is shaped and resting, and now it just needs time. This final rise is what brings everything together. The softness, the stretch, and the lightness. And if you let it happen fully, the dough will do the rest for you. This last rise gives the gluten time to relax completely, and the gas to move and settle evenly. And now is the moment to give it space and start preheating your oven to its maximum temperature, usually around 250 centigrade. Let the oven run hot while the dough finishes proofing. You'll know it's ready when it looks puffier and almost double in size. But there is one more sign to check. Gently press a finger into the surface. If it springs back slowly, the dough is proofed and ready. Now the dough is ready. It's airy, relaxed, and full of potential. And now it starts finally to look like pizza. Before anything else, you need to dust your work surface with Semola rimacinata. Then sprinkle a good amount on top of the dough while it's still in the container. We use Semola because it's coarser than regular flour. It won't get absorbed into the dough, and it won't change the hydration or make the surface sticky. Turn the dough out gently. Dust the top and begin pressing with your fingertips. Start from the edges and lock them. Then move to the inside, where you gently press the middle down, opening it. You're not flattening it, you are guiding it outward to match the shape of your tray. Every bubble you see has taken hours to build. The goal now is to keep them intact and alive. This isn't about force, it's about feeling. Once you open the dough into the counter, lift it gently into the tray. Use your finger to finish stretching it there, from corner to corner. You're aiming for a uniform base with a slightly thicker edge. Soft, airy, and full of life. Now it's time for the tomato. We're adding just enough to kiss the top. A light, even layer. This isn't just for flavor, it also protects the surface of the dough from drying out during the first bake. Too much sauce will weight it down and block the rise. The dough is stretched, the top is kissed with sauce, just enough to let it breathe and rise. This is the last step before baking, and as for the mozzarella, that comes in a second moment. Now, finally, it enters the oven. This is the moment where every step you've been taking comes to life. Before placing it into the oven, you must understand why the bake happens in 2 stages. The initial bake, directly on the oven floor, ensures the base gets intense heat, creating that essential crispy bottom and airy rise. This mimics the condition of a traditional wooden-fired oven. Let it bake for 7 to 8 minutes, just until the base turns golden, puffs slightly, and firm up enough to lift easily with a spatula. You're looking for visible air pockets, a dry tomato surface, and a set but lightly browned edge. Mozzarella releases moisture as it melts, so baking it separately prevents water from soaking into the dough, preserving its crispiness. Return it to the oven, position in the middle this time. Bake for another 4 to 6 minutes until the cheese bubbles beautifully, melting fully into a silky layer, and the crust gently turns into a richer gold color. When finished, the crust should be crispy and airy, with the cheese melted and bubbling. One final tip: when out of the oven, cool it briefly on a rack to keep the bottom crispy. Now it's ready. Slice it carefully and enjoy with your family and friends the satisfying perfection of real homemade Italian pizza. So that's exactly how you make real Italian pizza at home. But here is the thing: if you want to top your pizza with pesto, for example, after all this work, would you go buy a jar at the supermarket or would you rather make it yourself? What's better? Click here to watch my last video and I will guide you on taking the right decision when you want to top your pizza with pesto or simply make a pasta. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!